Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General McConville, in your letter accompanying the Army's unfunded unfunded requirement list, you acknowledge the President's budget creates, quote, a downturn in Army's purchasing power, close quote. And you also informed us that, quote, progress is at risk if you don't have real growth of 3 to 5% above inflation going forward. Can you elaborate on that and tell us if we pass a budget that fails to, at a minimum, keep pace with inflation, hopefully with an increase, what Army capabilities or programs are at risk?
Yeah, and Congress, what we've done within the budget is try to produce the best Army we can within the resources we have. That's an Army that's 485,000 end strength. We were growing end strength. We're not going to be able to grow end strength, so we're basically keeping the end strength that we have, which I articulated was at the level of 9/11. We're keeping a basic level of readiness. We do not want to go back to where we were a couple of years ago, where the readiness of the Army was of concern. I believe right now the Army is ready to fight and win. But most importantly, what I think we have to do is we must transform the Army now for the next 40 years. And I make the argument every 40 years we transform the Army. We did in 1940. We did in 1980 when I came in the Army. We're in 2020 right now. And so we have done everything we can to protect those modernization priorities, those 31 plus 4 systems. And if you'll see it in my UFA list, there's other things that are not going to get funded that we would like to do. We have challenge with barracks. We have challenge with what I call enduring systems that we would like to bring along in the system. And those are listed in the UFA. But make no mistake to those who listen to this, the Army can fight and win today.
Yeah, and we're all mindful of that, but we also know you got to get ready for the future. So what do you need that this budget does not buy you?
Well, I think when we talk about needs, the reason you ask us to provide a unfunded requirement letter, which we did, that shows some of the requirements that were not included in the budget. The only thing I would ask is we have a prioritized budget. Everything in the budget is what we need. Those are additional priority type items, and I would ask that if there's any, as we look at that, especially when it comes to our readiness accounts, we have really gone after them hard to make sure they're as efficient and effective as we can.
Yeah, I just, as I mentioned in my opening statement, we can't lose sight of the fact that this year's budget gives you $7.5 billion less in buying power than you had in the previous year's budget. When you look at China, and we all acknowledge China is a peer now that we have to be thoughtful about, as they ramp up their defense funding, what do you worry about them outpacing you on in the near future?
Well, they have a great economy. They have, when we take a look at China itself, is a very, very strong economy. They have a force that's much larger than ours. Historically, especially when we look at an army, they have an active duty army that's probably twice the size of ours. And as they modernize it, we need to stay ahead of them. And that's what we intend to do. That's why our 31 plus 4 modernization priorities are so important. They give us the speed, the range, and the convergence to give us decision dominance and, quite frankly, overmatch. And so as we move forward, we are doing everything we can to protect those modernization priorities.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Horsford is recognized for 5 minutes.